What's up, everyone? Hope you're doing great. Welcome to another video. Hope you're enjoying the rest of your day, wherever you are, whether you're at work or at school, whatever. Probably you out of school by now because it's Friday and it's basically 10 to 4, I think. But yeah, man. Welcome to another video. Please just check out my video. I'm gonna. I was too. Well, I guess City fans, because other fans might not be interested because I just made a video with regards to which team I think is the best 11 for City this season. You can check that out. I'll post it at the same time as this one. But yeah, man, I want to talk about the games for this weekend here. Obviously, it's Friday, and some games are happening tomorrow and on Sunday. There's no Monday night football because the Champions League is starting next week. I think City plays Sevilla next week. We travel to Spain. I'm not quite sure with regards to the other teams. I haven't really checked it out, but I will be looking at those games on Monday. Yeah, or Tuesday. But I will look at them for like the top four clubs for last year in the Premier League. So I look at the game for Spurs, Chelsea, City, and Liverpool. So please do check out that video. But yeah, so basically, before I go on to the video, if you haven't done so, please subscribe. Please subscribe to the channel. And also please like the video. If you like the content, please push that thumbs up button, and also please push the notification bell so that you can get notified each time I post a new video. And then obviously some interesting games actually taking place this weekend. I'll just start with the one with the first one basically that kicks on the weekend that kicks off the weekend, which is the game between Liverpool and Everton. It's at Goodison Park, Merseyside derby, and yeah, obviously Liverpool are not playing well at the minute. They scraped through that Newcastle win, and they were like obviously they made something happen in the dying seconds of the game, and they ended up winning the game, scoring at the 98th minute through Fabio Carvalho. That was obviously a good win for them, especially with the fact that they didn't play well in that game. So I think yeah, it's been a slow start to the season for Liverpool, and yeah, so they obviously just need to keep winning and to keep putting the wins on the board. And Everton, I think I'm not sure if they have won this season as of yet. But obviously Frank Lampard he's been coaching Everton, and they don't really look that good. Even though they have looked more solid this season because they brought in Connor Cody from Wolverhampton Wanderers, and they've also brought in this guy, James Tarkowski, who played for Burnley when Burnley were relegated last season, basically. So he was signed by Everton as well. So they look a bit more solid at the back than they did last season, but they still don't have they don't offer much going forward because I think Dominic Calvert-Lewin is still injured, and they have Anthony Gordon, who plays as the center forward basically, but basically he's not a center forward, he's a wide player. So they're really struggling with creating goals at this moment in time. So it's really it's really a bit of a tricky situation with regards to Everton at this moment in time. Obviously, they survived relegation last season, but yeah, they are going to be hoping that they're not going to be in a relegation scrap again this season. So they're coming up against Liverpool. Obviously, they're going to be hyped up for the game against Liverpool because it's the Merseyside derby, and basically that's the most important game of their season because they don't compete for the league title. They don't compete for the FA Cup. They don't compete for the League Cup. So the biggest game that they're going to play during a season is the Merseyside derby because it's basically the two local teams and the Goodison Park and Anfield are only a few miles away. It's I think there's a golf course called Stanley Park in Merseyside in England, and then Everton is this side, and then it's this side of the golf course, and then on this side of the golf course, Liverpool is there, like Anfield. So that's why there's such a great rivalry between the two clubs because they're only a few miles away, in the same city, obviously of Merseyside. So it's going to be an interesting game between Liverpool and Everton. Especially like in previous seasons, Liverpool have walloped Everton and they've thrashed them. They've beaten them like with huge score lines, because obviously Everton have not been competitive and Liverpool have been competing for the league title, for the Champions League. But it's interesting going into this game this weekend because Liverpool are not playing particularly well. Even though they did beat Bournemouth 9-0, Bournemouth never really competed in that game. And when they came up against Newcastle, and Newcastle competed a little bit, and they kind of competed for the my back was itching. They competed for the duels, for the 50-50s, and they played at a high intensity. They really caused Liverpool some problems and actually scored first. So I think Everton will fancy themselves that they can nick a draw, at least in the game against Liverpool, if they compete with them. Because at this moment in time, Liverpool are misfiring a little bit. They kind of struggling to break teams down, and they're struggling with the intensity. It's like if a team plays at a high intensity, Liverpool seem to be struggling. It seems like Liverpool are struggling this season, and that's an uncharacteristic thing from a Jurgen Klopp team, because if you look over the years, Liverpool have been one of the top teams in terms of playing at a high intensity, playing with a lot of pace and stamina in the game. But at this moment in time, they seem like they're struggling a little bit. Maybe that's because they've lost Mane, because Mane was not just a goal scorer for Liverpool. He also, like, he did the like, he was a team player, and he, as much as he ran with enthusiasm when he was going forward, he ran with enthusiasm when he was going back as well, when he had to defend. So they've lost a player in Mane, really, not just an offensive player that scored goals, but also a player with a strong mentality and a great attitude in terms of working hard for the team. So maybe they are struggling a little bit with that in terms of his intensity when it comes to tracking back and pressing. So probably maybe they're going to find their groove as time goes on. But obviously some team news for Liverpool. I think Jota is back in training. I think Matip is back in training, as well as Curtis Jones. And that's obviously those guys were injured for the beginning of the season. And then also Thiago, I think, is going to be coming back in training next week. And Darwin Núñez has also served his 3-game suspension, which he got by basically getting the red card against Crystal Palace when he decided to headbutt the Crystal Palace defender. So some good news for Jurgen Klopp in terms of his team news, because he's getting some players back. So that can only make his squad stronger. But I don't think Darwin Núñez is going to go back to, like, he's going to slot straight back into the team, simply because of how Firmino has played in his absence. Because Firmino, even though like he started the season relatively poorly because he was not being involved in the game in terms of not being involved in attacks and creating something in attack, in his last 2 games, he has 3 goals and 3 assists. Obviously, he was helped by the fact that he got 2 goals and 3 assists in one game against Bournemouth when they beat Bournemouth 9-0. But when you look at the stats, he has 3 goals and 3 assists in his last 2 games. So it would be very difficult for Jurgen Klopp, and I would find it odd for Jurgen Klopp, especially with the fact that Darwin Núñez actually got a red card. So it was ill-discipline, more than being like unlucky that he's missed the past 3 games. So I think Klopp is going to be wanting to send a message to him that, like, if he doesn't get his act together, he's not going to play. It doesn't matter that he's been signed with 100 million euros or 80-something million pounds. When you consider the add-ons that have been included in the deal that brought him to Anfield, if he doesn't behave in the games, and if he is a hothead, then someone else is going to take his place in the team and he's not going to play. So I don't think, yes, he might come off the bench to offer something, but I certainly don't think he's going to be starting ahead of Firmino. Also, because of how Firmino has been playing in these past 2 games, because he did score the opening goal against Newcastle, which brought Liverpool back into the game against Newcastle, which a game they ended up winning. So I think he's in relatively good form at this moment in time, and I would be very surprised if Jurgen Klopp would drop him for Darwin Núñez. Obviously, Jota, I don't think Jota is going to start, even though he's back in training. I don't think he's going to start because he's just coming off an injury. So I doubt that Klopp is going to want to risk him and just play him from the start of the game. Because remember, like, he still needs to, because he got injured in preseason and missed the rest of the preparation. So his fitness is not going to be he's not going to be high at this moment in time. and he's going to need to kind of play a few minutes here and there to kind of get it back to peak fitness. So I don't think Jurgen Klopp would put him back into the side, as well as Matip or Curtis Jones. So I don't think Klopp is going to change his team, unless maybe he might bring in Fabio Carvalho into midfield, who I think has really looked good so far this season. He's really looked like a creative spark for Liverpool, as well as Harvey Elliott. But I think he's pretty much going to stay with the same team. And I think it's going to be a tough game for Liverpool, especially considering the fact that it's at Goodison Park, and Goodison Park is a very tough stadium to go to, because the fans are emotional, especially when the team competes in terms of the duels, the 50-50s. But I don't think Everton are potent enough to hurt Liverpool, because I doubt that Liverpool, yes, they might struggle to score, but I think they will score eventually. And I doubt, there's not enough potency in the Everton team to suggest that they're going to be able to score some goals, because they don't have a striker. Calvert-Lewin, as I've already mentioned, is injured. They're playing Anthony Gordon as the striker, and Anthony Gordon is not really a striker. So I think Everton are struggling really in terms of creating the chances that they need in order to score. Yes, they've looked better defensively, but I don't think offensively they offer a lot, which is why I think Liverpool probably are gonna win. But I don't think it's gonna be an easy game. I don't think Liverpool are gonna win 5-0 or 6-0, but I do think that Liverpool are gonna eventually win the game. So I'm gonna go for a 1-0 Liverpool win. I think I'm gonna go for 1-0. I think Liverpool are gonna win the game 1-0. They're gonna try and grind out the result, and they're gonna win 1-0. And then obviously going on to the other games, obviously there's the other game that's taking place is Tottenham versus West Ham. No, Chelsea versus West Ham. Tottenham are going to be playing Fulham. Yeah, Tottenham played West Ham on Wednesday, this past Wednesday. Chelsea will be playing West Ham United. Now, I think this is a tough game for Chelsea, even though they're playing at home. But I think it's a tough game simply because of how Chelsea have struggled at the beginning of the season. Obviously, they've signed Aubameyang. They've gotten Aubameyang through the door. They've signed Wesley Fofana. So that might actually mean that I haven't looked at the team news with regards to Chelsea. So I don't know whether Reece James is fit or not. But if Reece James is fit to play, because he missed the last game through an illness, the game on Tuesday against Southampton. But if Reece James is fit to play, I think Wesley Fofana might go in at centre back, and then Reece James might then go back to his preferred position of right wing back, and I think that might give Chelsea more potency going forward. Aubameyang is not going to be playing. Obviously, they've signed Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang from Barcelona, but Aubameyang currently has a fractured jaw. I think he's going to have surgery on his jaw, because while he was still at Barcelona, I think 5 days ago or 6 days ago, I'm not quite sure when it was, but there was a burglary in his home, and he was hit with a crowbar in his face, and then he fractured his jaw. So I think he needs surgery for that, and I think he's gonna be back in these upcoming games in the next few weeks. But he's certainly not going to be playing tomorrow against West Ham because of that fractured jaw that he has. I think Chelsea have also signed a guy called Dennis Zakaria or something. Now, I don't know his profile. I think he's a midfielder. I think he's a defensive midfielder, because Kante has been struggling a little bit with injuries. Even last season, he struggled with injuries. So far this season, he's already injured. I think he has a hamstring injury, and he's still missing from the team. He suffered the hamstring injury against Tottenham Hotspur in the second game of the season. So I think Kante has been struggling a bit with injuries. I think they've signed Dennis Zakaria to kind of deputize whenever Kante is not available as the holding midfielder of the team. But I'm not quite sure actually whether he's going to play against West Ham or not. But I think it's a tough game for Chelsea, because Chelsea haven't looked potent going forward. Sterling has been the only player who looks like he's going to create something. He's been the only spark in the team where when he gets the ball, you feel like he's going to create a goal, or like he's going to score, or he's going to assist. And obviously he has 3 goals in his first 5 games for Chelsea. I think, yeah, it's 3 goals in his first 5 games for Chelsea. So I think Sterling has been a good acquisition for Chelsea, but yeah, he's looked good so far this season. In early, like on the early days of his Chelsea career, but all the other guys like Mason Mount, Ziyech, Pulisic, who are these other guys for Chelsea? Kovacic, all these guys that are midfielders or attacking players for Chelsea don't look like they're gonna score. Like they don't. Reece James looks more likely to score than those guys playing in the forward areas. So I think, like obviously except Sterling, as I've already mentioned. So I think Chelsea are gonna struggle in the game against West Ham. I think West Ham have found their form a bit. They've had a win and a draw in their past 2 games. They obviously lost their opening 3 games of the season, but they've since recovered, and they have 4 points from their last six available. So I think it's going to be a tough game for Chelsea. I don't think it's going to be an easy game against West Ham United, because West Ham are a tricky team to play against. Antonio can be a handful for centre backs. Declan Rice is a great midfield player, and they've got a solid back line, and they've signed some few players. They've signed a few players as well. West Ham, if though I think they did sign a striker. Excuse me. They did sign a striker called something Skamaka, but at this moment in time, I think he's injured. I don't know what injury he's suffering from, but I think he is injured at this moment in time. So I don't think he's going to be available for the Chelsea game. But I think it is going to be a tough game for Chelsea. And I think it would be interesting to see whether Tuchel is going to stop being stubborn and maybe play Armando Broja as his striker. Because when they played against Southampton and they were completely outplayed and they were outworked and they were outthought and they were outmuscled by Southampton, in the second half when Armando Broja, when he went into the team. So Armando Broja is this young striker that they have in the bench who spent last season on loan at Southampton. When he came into the side, he really looked lively in terms of his movement and in terms of his intensity. I think it will be interesting to see whether Tuchel is gonna stop kind of benching him and play him up top, because I think it would also bring the best out of Sterling playing a striker up top, someone for him to play off, and then maybe it might bring out the best in Mason Mount as well, and it might just give them more potency going forward, because they've looked lackluster and they've looked really slow in attack so far this season, and it really doesn't look like they're gonna score loads of goals. They don't look like they have a creative spark when they're going forward that like you feel like as the opposition team, you feel like they're going to score when they're going forward. And obviously they haven't been good. They've been atrocious in some games this season. They were not good against Leeds United. They were not good against Southampton. Even though they were really good against Tottenham Hotspur in the second game of the season, they were not good against Everton on the opening day of the season. So I think it's really going to be interesting to see Thomas Tuchel's selection tomorrow, because they have registered Fofana as well. Is he going to go straight into the team? And then yeah, man, I think it's going to be a good game, but I think it's going to be a tough game for Chelsea because West Ham United are no joke. They're no mugs. They really will give you a tough game. They're not an easy team to play against. So I think it's going to be an interesting game, and I'm going to go for a draw, actually. I think I don't trust Chelsea, man, so far this season. I haven't seen enough from them to trust them. So I think I'm going to go for a draw. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw between Chelsea and West Ham, because I think West Ham are going to give them a run for their money, and I think they're going to trouble their back line. I think I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. I would be surprised if Chelsea managed to kind of win and get a result against West Ham United. So I'm going for a 1-1 draw. And then obviously going on to the other game, Tottenham Hotspur versus Fulham. Obviously Spurs are thingy. The last game they played against West Ham on Sunday. Again, they were in the first half of that game, they were really good. But in the second half, they were not good. And they were completely outplayed by West Ham United in the second half. And deservedly so, West Ham United scored a goal in the second half and they managed to get a draw against Spurs. So it's going to be an interesting game between Fulham and these guys and Tottenham Hotspur. Obviously, it's a London derby, as was the previous fixture because West Ham is also from London, so it was a London derby between Spurs and West Ham as well. I think there's quite a lot of London derbies this season because we've got, I think, like 5 London clubs or something, or 6. It's Brentford, Fulham, Chelsea, Arsenal, Spurs, and what, Fulham. Yeah, and Fulham. So we've got 6 London clubs in the league. So there's going to be quite a lot of London derbies this season. Fulham, as I was already saying about Spurs, that in their previous game they didn't deserve to win, and a draw was a fair reflection of the game because in the first half they dominated the game against West Ham, and then in the second half they were completely dominated by West Ham. So probably a draw is a fair reflection of the performance that you saw on the pitch. Obviously, Fulham have started the season off well by their standards, because the goal of Fulham for this season is to stay up. Like, that's all they want. They want to retain their Premier League status. Unlike the previous seasons when they have been promoted and they've come back to they've been back in the Premier League, and then they've been relegated again. So their main objective this season is to stay up and to survive. And they've started off really well in terms of when you look at their goal, in terms of staying up, because they drew against Liverpool. They've won a few games. I think they won against Brighton as well. And Brighton are actually no joke. I think Brighton are in the top 4 as we speak. Obviously, it doesn't really matter whether they're in the top 4 now. That doesn't mean they're going to make top 4 by the end of the season. But Brighton are no joke. I mean, they're a really good team. And Fulham beat them. What's the other game that they played? But what I'm trying to say is that Fulham have really looked good so far this season. They don't look like a team you can just walk over because they're from the Championship. Mitrovic has really looked good. And what Marco Silva has done is that he has basically looked at how Fulham did when they came back to the Premier League in previous seasons and then they were relegated again. And what they were doing was that they were trying to prove a point that they can play football as well. So they wanted to play a tiki-taka style, like how Manchester City play football, how Arsenal play football. And that doesn't necessarily work for them because they're not like, they can do that in the Championship and look like they're good enough to do that, but they're not good enough to do it in the Premier League against top level opposition, because they will make, like, errors are going to be forced on them, and they're going to make errors and they're going to get punished, which is what they were doing basically the last time they were in the Premier League. But this season, Marco Silva has done away with that. His team does it in spells. They don't try and do it all the time. And instead, they're trying to play more direct and they're trying to get balls into Mitrovic. And Mitrovic is doing the rest for the team. He's holding the ball up. He's a big lad. It's very difficult to get him off his stride. So he's basically really playing at a very high level at this moment in time. In terms of like Mitrovic, the centre backs that he's played against so far are struggling at the moment. Van Dijk actually struggled playing against Mitrovic, and he gave away a penalty when he was playing against Mitrovic. So he's really playing well at this moment in time. Yeah, man, that's why I think it's going to be an interesting game for Tottenham. Even though I think Tottenham do have the quality to hurt Fulham, even though like Tottenham haven't really played well in terms of their performances this season, but I think obviously they've gotten the result. They have 3 draws. Not three draws. They have 3 wins and 2 draws, which that's a good start because it's 11 points from the first 15 available. So that's a relatively good start for them. So I think it's a thingy, man. It's going to be an interesting London derby between Fulham and Spurs. But I do think Spurs are going to win the game because I think Spurs, in terms of going forward, just have more than Fulham. Because Fulham are really reliant on Mitrovic having a really, really great game. Yes, I'm not saying the other players don't play well. I'm not saying that they are mediocre or whatever, but they're not top level. Whereas Spurs have a few players who are top level. So I don't think it's going to be an easy game for Tottenham, because Mitrovic is going to be a handful for the defenders for Tottenham, for the defenders of Tottenham. But I do think that eventually Spurs are going to get the win. because I think Harry Kane is gonna grab a goal or two, and Richarlison has really started his Tottenham career really well. Perisic has also looked well in spell, has also looked great in spells. And yeah, man, I think Tottenham are not giving a lot in terms of chances to the opposition. So they're defending relatively well, even though they're not kind of playing relatively well in terms of going forward. They are scoring goals, however, and they haven't lost so far this season. So I think it's going to be a tough game against Fulham, because Fulham have not made it easy against the teams that they played against. But I do think that Spurs are just gonna edge out Fulham to get the win. So I think it's going to be a 2-1 Tottenham win tomorrow between them and Fulham. I think it's going to be a 2-1 Tottenham win. Tough game. And then obviously the other fixture that's taking place tomorrow is the City one. Man City are playing Aston Villa, Jack Grealish's old club. Obviously, Aston Villa are in the mud at this moment. They're in bad form at this moment. I think they've won 3 games of their last 17, going back to last season. So if you look at their form guide, when you go back to last season and including this season, they basically won 3 out of their last 17 games, which that's a dreadful run of form. And they've had a dreadful start so far this season, because I think they only have 1 win from the first 5 games, and they've lost. They actually even lost to Bournemouth. I mean, losing to Bournemouth is pretty embarrassing, because Bournemouth were embarrassed by Liverpool. They lost 9-0 to Liverpool, and they lost 3-0 to Arsenal, and lost 4-0 to City. Even though I think, yes, those teams are top opposition, but they were really embarrassed by Liverpool. But they did, however, manage to win against Aston Villa. So I think Steven Gerrard is under a lot of pressure at this moment in time. Like the fans, the Aston Villa fans are calling for his head on the chopping block. They want him to be sacked. They don't believe he's good enough. But obviously that's up to the Aston Villa board. That's the decision of the Aston Villa board, whether they want to relieve him of his duties. But I think he is really, like, Steven Gerrard is really under pressure to deliver this season, because even though, like, he hasn't spent a lot of money, because they spent like 20 million on Coutinho, and they brought in like a few other players as well in terms of spending money. So they haven't spent a lot of money, but there are, like, Aston Villa is an ambitious football club, and it's a really bad run of form in terms of winning only 3 games of your last 17 games. So I think obviously the fixture against Manchester City could not have come at a much more difficult time for Aston Villa, where they desperately need to win. But now Haaland and co are coming to town, and it's going to be a tough game for them, because, I mean, Haaland is on fire. He's got 9 goals in his first 5 games. He's got back-to-back hat-tricks. He's got basically, he has 6 goals in his last 2 games. So that's a pretty ominous start from him. And I think it's going to be a very difficult game for Aston Villa. I don't know how they're going to approach the game in terms of whether they're going to sit back or they're going to try and compete and attack. But doesn't matter really how they approach the game. I think it is going to be a pretty tough game for them, and it's going to be a long evening for their centre backs, because Haaland is definitely going to start in the game, because he was taken off at like the 60th something minute against Nottingham Forest. So he did get like 30 minute rest before the end of the game against Forest. So he's going to be sharp and ready to go against Villa. And Alvarez also played well in the last game, so it will be interesting to see whether he's going to start or not. But I don't think he's going to start. I think De Bruyne is going to slot back into the team. And obviously the team who started last time out against Nottingham Forest is Ederson, Walker, Diaz, Stones, and Cancelo. Then it was Rodri, Gundogan, Did Mahrez start? I think Mahrez started, eh? Did he? I think so. Yeah, he did. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. Mahrez didn't start. Yeah, it was Rodri, Gundogan, and Silva in the midfield, and then it was Alvarez, Haaland, and Foden up top. Yeah. So I think from that team, um, probably Alvarez is gonna drop to the bench, and De Bruyne is gonna come on, and then De Bruyne is gonna go into midfield, and Silva is gonna go on the right wing. I think that's pretty much what's going to happen. I don't think there will be any other changes to the team. If I'm being perfectly honest, I did actually look at Pep Guardiola's press conference, looking when he was basically looking ahead to the game against Aston Villa, and he did say that Jack Grealish and Nathan Ake are fit to play against Aston Villa. However, I don't think they're going to start. They might just come off the bench in the second half if we like winning the game 4-0 or 3-0. They might just come off the bench. But I think that's pretty much going to be the same team. I think De Bruyne is going to come back into the team, and Alvarez is going to drop to the bench. I think Alvarez is going to start next week in the Champions League game against Sevilla. But I don't think he's going to start in the Premier League this weekend. He might come off the bench though. But I was really impressed with him in that game against Nottingham Forest. So he had 2 great finishes in that game, and he bagged 2 goals for himself. But yeah, man, I think it's going to be a tough game for Villa. I think City obviously are going to dominate proceedings as they always do against pretty much every opponent, bar probably Liverpool. And then yeah, like the thingy. Like Villa, as I've said, have been on a dreadful run of form. So I think they're just gonna try and keep it tight and try and prevent Manchester City from scoring early. Because if they score early, then you're probably looking at like getting beat 5-0 or 4-0. However, I do think Gerrard will be massively under pressure if Man City beat them with like a 5-0 scoreline or a 6-0 or something. I think the manner of the defeat is going to be really important. I think City are going to win because, I mean, Villa are just on a dreadful run of form, and I just can't see how they're going to... I can't see how Tyrone Mings and Konsa, the defenders, are going to stop Haaland from scoring. Yeah, so I think they're going to lose the game, but the manner of the defeat will determine how much pressure is on Steven Gerrard at the end of the game, because if he gets like done 5-0 or 6-0 or 7, then I think he will be under pressure he's already under pressure from the fans, but I think he's going to be under pressure from the board if he gets embarrassed and he gets beaten by a huge scoreline. But yeah, man, I think City are going to win the game. I think it's going to be a 3-0 win against Villa. And yeah, hopefully Arsenal slip up and we go top of the league. And yeah, man, so I think that's pretty much it. I don't think there's anything more that I can really say about the game because Villa are not really on a good run of form. City have started the season off brilliantly, even though like in previous seasons they've started the season off slow, but this season they have 4 wins and 1 draw from their opening 5 games, so that's like 13 points from the first 15 available. We haven't had a great start to a season in previous seasons, because I think last season we lost against Tottenham, and I think we lost against Palace on the opening matches of the season. We drew against Southampton, and yeah, so I just don't like, based on how we've started and how Aston Villa are playing, I just don't see it. I simply don't see how they're gonna be able to kind of stop us from scoring or limit us or whatever. Like they might hurt us on the break and maybe score a few goals like how Newcastle did or Crystal Palace did, but I don't see them stopping us from scoring. And as a result, I think we're gonna win the game. Even though I think we're gonna keep a clean sheet though. I think Pep has been really emphasizing clean sheets. in previous games, because we conceded 2 goals against Palace and 3 goals against Newcastle, and that wasn't good enough. So I think Pep Guardiola is going to be emphasizing a clean sheet in terms of keeping a clean sheet in the game. But yeah, man, I think we're going to win the game 3-0. And then that brings us to the end of this video. I did leave one game, which is the game between Man United and Arsenal. I'm going to make a separate video about that one. I'm just going to talk, like, I'm going to do a video solely for that game, because it's like a big six game, basically. It's going to be a fascinating game, but I will do a separate video for it. But yeah, man, guys, I think obviously I mentioned City, Liverpool, Spurs, Chelsea, yeah, and that leaves us with Man United and Arsenal, which I'm gonna talk about separately. But yeah, man, if you haven't done so, guys, please subscribe to the channel, and please push the thumbs up button to like the video, and please push the thingy. What did I say? Did I say push the thumbs up button? I think I did say that. But like, please push the notification bell to so that you can get notified when I post a new video. And also, please comment in the comment section below, so that you can or so that I can get some feedback from you guys. I think I would really appreciate that. And yeah, man, thank you for watching the video, and enjoy your weekend. But I'll just do like one last video with regards to Man United versus Arsenal. But enjoy the rest of your day, and enjoy watching the games. And yeah, see you on the next one.